So let's shift gears a tiny bit and focus a little bit more on FinOps, which has now become a key imperative. I have a set of quotes from our CIO advisory board and all the C-suite executives that we talk to. They tell us time and time again that they are spending a lot more on the cloud than they did before the pandemic. Some intentional, some some out of shock. So like there was this organization that said that their cloud spend had increased 35x. So they probably started from a very low number, but it increased 35x. And to a large extent, although that was a big jump in their IT spend, they were seeing a lot more benefits, right? So their innovation was boosted, their productivity of their teams was boosted as well. So they really saw a lot more benefits. They were okay to spend, but they just wanted to make sure that they are doing it right in the cloud. So that there are three different quotes that I have highlighted here. One company head of technology, he said that they migrated the IT environment to the cloud, basically to save on capital expenses, but then realized that cloud economics is a lot more complex. They could not use their traditional budgeting processes or their purchase order management, all those technologies to manage their cloud costs. So they realized that they need to adapt their processes. They need to look at newer ways to manage their cloud costs. So thinking about cloud economics as a whole had become very important for that company. Another VP of IT at a global automotive company, she said that cloud value realization is a key focus area for them, because they wanted to track their cloud cost and consumption patterns in a meaningful way to talk to other stakeholders in the business and see where they could optimize. And then the last one also talks about heavy focus on efficiency, which was the word of the year for a lot of CIOs. And they wanted a lot more predictability. So how do we budget well in the cloud? How do we make sure that we're able to forecast our spend? Because that's very important for us as we plan our future. And can we do some kind of sensitivity analysis where interest rates go up or energy prices go up or cloud prices go up? How do we make sure that we know we can plan for all these different scenarios and have control on our cloud spend? We at IDC predict that these complexities of digital business and IT budget pressures is actually going to drive 7 in 10 of G1000 companies by 2024 to increase FinOps maturity and implement all these capabilities like granular chargebacks, granular showback, benchmarking capabilities, and having multiple ways to optimize their cloud spend. So it is very much front and center for a lot of organizations in their thinking. A lot of companies are looking at the FinOps Foundation to have some kind of standardization in what they do, right? So they're looking at the FinOps framework from the FinOps Foundation, because then what happens is they all can talk the same language. There is some kind of consistency and standardization in how they are evolving their FinOps capabilities, and they have somewhere to benchmark, so they can look at what maturity looks like and they can assess themselves and then progress. Because if everyone did it their own way, it becomes very difficult to benchmark. So companies are using the FinOps Foundation framework to make progress or adopt those capabilities. So there are 3 different phases in the FinOps framework. The first one is inform, then there's optimize, and then there's operate. And all 3 of them, it's a continuous loop. It's not a linear development program. You have to make progress across all these different phases in a very aligned way. Inform is very much about getting that visibility. Optimize is about better understanding of your cloud pricing, cloud usage, to just make sure that you're making the right decisions. And operate, I see it very much as the cultural side, where everyone takes accountability, people are coming together and collaborating to make those right decisions, and centralizing the billing, but distributing cloud decisions. So governance and cultural management is a key part of that phase. So it's inform, optimize, and operate, and companies have to make progress across all these 3 phases. John, now I know you talk a lot about the 3 phases of FinOps Foundation, these 3 phases in the framework as well, right? So I wondered if if you have any thoughts from your customer conversations.
Yeah, I think definitely we hear the FinOps Foundation framework come up quite a bit, and I think one of the things that people often ask is, how do I think about like benefiting from FinOps regardless, and from tooling and such, regardless of where I am in those journeys. Maybe I, as an organization, I know that it might take me a while to get through all stages of this journey, but how do I really think about like building my way into seeing those benefits even in those early stages? And so sometimes, like you mentioned, it's just how do I even just get visibility and understand those? But how do I also accelerate my ability to optimize those costs? Those are a lot of the conversations that we definitely have as people try to think about how to do this, but also to do it in a way that isn't, something that becomes a huge project and something that's perceived as something that will take them a very long time to really realize the full benefit of.
Yeah, absolutely. That visibility is a very important step, right? And only then can you get that confidence to make sure that you are able to use different kind of pricing that's available in the cloud, whether you want to go for the savings plan, whether you want to go for reserved instances, how you can bring in the spot instances and really have a pool of resources. And over time, I think mature organizations, what they are ultimately trying to do is that we will buy from the cloud vendors all these different types of resources, and then we will push it to the business as they want these capabilities, but then we will charge a single price for the business. So the business doesn't have to worry about spot instances or reserved instances or savings plan. They just say, go and tell the IT team that we need resources to build these applications, and they just get a set of resources. It simplifies that conversation so much more, and that's why it accelerates the speed of the business, whereas the IT then absorbs all the differences in the cost because they can plan and forecast and budget so well because they understand the patterns and the usage and the cloud costs, that they buy these different instances and bill it on a consistent basis. I think that's what matured chargeback environment looks like. But a lot of companies are a long way away from that, but that's where they're trying to get to. So FinOps can very much help the C-suite, not just the IT teams, but the overall C-suite to overcome their cloud cost challenges. So what are the key cloud cost challenges? The three ones that companies highlighted to us was, the first one was very much this lack of best practice guidance on how to optimize the cloud spend, right? John, I think you had alluded to it as well. Where do I start? How do I start? I just need to make sure that I get better at this. Lack of hygiene is a very important aspect that came up, where 10 to 30% of the total cloud spend was categorized as waste. I think I previously highlighted where 92% of organizations said that they were wasting some amount of money in the cloud. And we think it's between 10 and 30%. And some organizations alarmingly said that 40% of their cloud spend is waste. So for every dollar that you spend in the cloud, if 40 cents is going waste, then I think there is plenty of room to optimize, and you need to do that, because then there will be huge amounts of savings, especially when cloud accounts for a big chunk of not just the IT budgets, but even revenue for a lot of organizations. And lack of control came out as the third important factor, where companies said that they admitted that it very much is difficult to control the costs. And that is one of the key reasons my cloud adoption program has failed. So roughly about 50% of organizations say or admit that their cloud journeys have not been as successful as they initially anticipated. And there are operational challenges, there are cultural challenges, but cloud costs, spiraling cloud costs, were one of the big reasons for cloud failures. There are different ways to start. What we're beginning to see is Cloud Center of Excellence is taking the center stage, or multi-cloud centers of excellence, where companies are trying to create this cross-functional cloud-focused team with some kind of C-suite representative, because you need that sponsor, you need an executive sponsor to make sure you carry this forward. And the Cloud Center of Excellence is also trying to create this balance between speed and stability, right? It's very much an art to manage the both. And the CCOE, which hears both sides of the stories, is trying to see how they can balance the two and make sure that the cloud spend is optimized. And the primary goal that the Cloud Center of Excellence is trying to drive is very much around managing cloud costs. So they're taking FinOps as a key discipline that they want to lead within that organization, and also broader cloud ops, like improving cloud performance, improving workload performance, security, governance, as well as better aligning business outcome with cloud strategy. So all the 3 layers of the cloud, whether it was operation, strategy, or governance, they are trying to make sure that they take a key role. So we asked organizations, what are the benefits of having a Cloud Center of Excellence? And if you can see, all the ones highlighted in green are FinOps related. So 6 out of 10 or 12 benefits is very much around getting maximum value for money and getting that cost optimization right. We see FinOps very much as a shared responsibility, like everything else is in the cloud. And this is something that companies forget. Sometimes they think that it is all their fault. Sometimes they think it's all the vendor's fault. It's not. Cloud FinOps is very much a shared responsibility, where cost efficiency of the cloud is very much in the hands of the provider, where they can bring in much more transparency, make it easier to understand the bill, have a lot more tools and resources that are easy to understand to optimize the use of cloud and track the use of cloud. So that is called cost efficiency of the cloud. But cost efficiency in the cloud is very much a user's responsibility, or the company's responsibility who is using the cloud, where they need to right scale, they need to have clear SLAs, they need to have this culture of accountability across the board. They need to architect their environment right before moving to the cloud, and think about egress charges, think about which instances are right for them, and set those policies and guardrails, inform the developers the right way to develop applications, and a lot more. So there is cost efficiency of the cloud as well as cost efficiency in the cloud, and companies have to think about all this together to make sure that they mature in their FinOps journey.